Martin, we're back on in a minute. Okay, the Chief Executive has a comment to start us off.
Thanks, Your Worship. A policy on the fly can always be a challenge. So if we look at the policy, it's silent, right? Which provides you with latitude to consider what you may be thinking about. The caution that I would apply is that it will create additional work for the staff to go away and deal with that. It also commits us to spending all of the budget. If at the end of the year we have an overspend for council as a whole, we take our little snippets from all of the underspends and look at how best we apportion those to limit what any overspend may look like. And so that would be my word of caution. Yes, it's not millions, but when you are looking to provide any sort of saving at the end of a financial year, anything that we can do to offset overspend, if this is a big if, right? If there is an overspend, we as an SLT look at everything that we can do.
So my suggestion is that we accept this paper as it is for now, and then we look at how we allocate these funds next year to allocate more of the budget. In the meantime, it'll still go to good purposes within council. We haven't received this extra recommendation ahead of time. We don't know what the implication is in terms of the capacity within the staff to deliver it. And it's not going to make a huge difference to each property. So I'm suggesting we just leave it for now. We look at it for next year and make sure that if you want to allocate more to this area or fully allocate the funds, then we look at it then when we've got a bit more time to do it. Because at the moment we're splitting hairs over what really is quite a small proportion of the rates for these people and creating quite a lot of extra work for staff. So I'd appreciate it, Councillor Halliday, if you left this for now and we deal with it the next time this comes across our desk. That's my plea to you. But I'll give you the floor now. So could I have Councillor Halliday's microphone, please? If you've got a question for staff or if you want to put your recommendation.
Look, thank you for that, Madam Chair. I accept the CE's response. We're here to advocate for our community. That's why we're elected into these roles. I'm just pushing back on this. I accept the response. I'm quite happy to withdraw that. But I needed to ask the question, what the situation was. I'm a lot clearer on that now. I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'd perhaps ask if there is a bit of a washout at the end of a financial year, perhaps we can be privy to that. It would be an interesting bit of information and public excluded or something. That would be nice, because we do get asked these questions from our community as such as well. Where do those extra funds go? Why didn't they be allocated? That sort of stuff. So I felt I would be remiss not to push as such, but I do accept that comment. Quite happy to withdraw that. Thank you very much.
Much appreciated, Councillor Halliday. Thank you. And what it's done is it's flagged something for us to have a look at when we've got more time to do so. Councillor Warwick, have you got a question? We're still in questions here. We haven't moved or seconded the recommendation yet.
My question is around accountability for the people who are getting this money, because some people are getting, it doesn't, probably not a lot in the scheme of things. So there is a heritage management plan reviewed annually. Do they have to come up with all of their receipts or things for you to understand how they've spent the money so we know we're getting value?
So my aim is to assess or audit 10% of the properties each year. So I select properties more or less at random and do a site visit to those properties. And so far, all of those properties have actually done more than was required in the plans. Yeah.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll just add as well. So we've talked about this quite a lot through the various funds that Council gives out. So Department of Internal Affairs, they have essentially a policy that sort of anything less than 10 grand is not considered to be high risk. Most of the rates to remissions we're giving out are in the hundreds of dollars. So we need to balance the amount of work that we do to audit and keep track of these things with the amount of money that we're actually dealing with. So mostly we're dealing with small amounts of money.
Fair enough,
Yeah, there are other opportunities through the Environment and Heritage Fund still in this area, aren't there, where we can provide more support and landowners can do more significant work. So this isn't the only vehicle. Mr. Butler.
Is that working? Can't see a red light.
That the other one is. Just grab that one.
Okay. I thought it was being good and swapping them over. Okay. Hey, look, this one says Cam Butler. Okay. Just on page 97 of the agenda, part 4, rates remission for council, community properties, sporting, recreation and other community organisations. I thought that was quite interesting that we give ourselves rate remission. Is this just a money merry-go-round? I was just wondering if you could give me an example of what a council community property that requires rates remission is, because part 5 does seem to deal with the sporting, recreation and other community organisations. So thanks.
Do we know what that is?
Apologies, I'm just
Mark's got his hand up.
Mark's put his hand up.
Thought it might.
Through you, Madam Chair. So, this is a standard policy that all councils have in terms of rates, remissions, and payments. And what it effectively relates to is it's where we have sports clubs or charitable organisations that operate from council-owned property. So we give them we basically we provide them as part of their lease. They lease some space from council, and included in that lease payment is is effectively part of that goes towards rate. So we, subject to qualifying criteria, give them a discount. Yes, that's right.
So we've had a pretty good go at questions and answers. I do realise there are another 2 microphones on, but we're looking at what's actually quite a relatively insignificant kind of sum of money, both overall and for the individual property owners. We've had a good suggestion about how we can potentially increase this in the future, and I suggest if we want to do more work in this space or find out more information, then we do that ahead of the next annual plan. So I'll look for a mover for this recommendation, please. Moved Councillor Warwick, seconded the Deputy Mayor. Right of introduction, Councillor Warwick. Waived. Any debate on this? I'll put that motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Well done.
Thank
Good
you.
work. So now we have the minor matter of the Regional Collaboration on Water Services Delivery Plan. And I wonder how many questions we'll have on that. Just in the very early stages, we're welcoming Sean to the table, and Darren might be happy to help with this too, having been involved at Chief Executive level. That's not it, is it? We haven't done that much work yet.
I'm going to read this report.
Don't worry, people, that's not it. Okay, so I'll welcome Sean Mallon to introduce this report.
Madam
10.5.
Good afternoon. So the report we have on the table is, as introduced by the Mayor, is to look to the Council to appoint a member. There's several recommendations there. Appoint membership to a advisory oversight group, but also primarily to sign up to a memorandum of understanding to be party to a regional working group that's looking at how best to deliver water services now that the new government has repealed the previous legislation, or some of it, and are looking to introduce new legislation that requires us to have a water management plan that's at the moment we think likely to be in place, have to be in place within the next 12 months. So at the moment, what we've recommended is that we would be part of that working group, but at any point in time, the council can withdraw from that membership. And really, that recommendation is based on the fact that we don't know what that might look like at the moment in terms of what that group may put forward, although it would suggest there are a number of options that have already been discussed that would be part of that conversation. But if we're part of that process, then we can at least be involved in that discussion, and depending on where it heads, the council can choose to remain part of that group or withdraw at any point in time as we work through it. We don't know what the financial implications might be for that yet. They're still working through the establishment and how that will work in terms of cost, but it will be committing some staff time to the process. So the membership of the senior working group would be myself, and obviously the chief executive is involved, and there's a nomination required for a council member to attend that oversight governance group. And that's
Great.
it really in summary.
So I would be happy to be that elected member, as it might piggyback onto other regional meetings, which would make it easier if that was agreeable to everybody. Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, I just agree with what Sean's been saying, actually. I think it's really important that we are part of the discussion. I also think it's really important that we have an out clause. That the structure of the MOU needs to be such, from our point of view, needs to be such that we are not going to be obligated to meet the Cock Case Council's water demands or be financially contributing to those, because that will happen. I mean, for sure it will happen. Wellington City's got a $2 billion water bill. So as long as there is an out clause, it may well be that in terms of an MOU, just as back in the day when I was on the regional council and issued an invitation to this council to be part of Wellington Water, not as a financial member, but as an observation status, that was declined at the time, which I thought was a mistake. I think it would be a mistake also if we weren't part of these discussions, these regional discussions. But again, as long as there's an out clause.
Great. If you move the recommendation, I'll take that as your opening statement.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Coe?
Yeah, look, I just wondered, this is a reasonably complex project, and I just wondered, in terms of the representation from this group, I think it's really important that we are involved, but is there a particular set of skills that would be more applicable to this role? Given
More
that it's
applicable
quite
than
a
what?
complex one, you know.
More
are we-
applicable than what?
Well, I'm not saying, well, that was more is the wrong word. Is there would it be desirable to have a representative on this group that has a skill set appropriate to the task, is what I'm saying.
I think it's up to us who we choose from around the table.
It
We've
was a
read the
question.
paper.
It was just a question.
Well, it's not a question for staff, I wouldn't have thought. It's up to us who we recommend.
Well, I was asking staff if it would be helpful to have.
I was just going to
skills.
contribute as I see at the moment, there are, I think, majority of mayors have been
Yep.
nominated into this governance group that
Right.
just add that piece of information.
Right.
But in terms of the skill set, I mean, it's a governance group, so
Governance
the-
skills.
not the work, but
Yep.
those technical pieces of work are sitting below that level in the
Yep.
in the group managers group, and then there's a secretariat and some technical people supporting that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coe. Mr Butler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Quick question, Wellington Region, does that include Horowhenua? Because that, in my humble opinion, would be a match for us. but it just wasn't sort of specifically mentioned what that Wellington region was.
As this process started, it was specific to the Wellington region, but I understand the Hora Whenua have asked to be considered, and I'm not sure when it's going to their council. I thought it might have been this week or, so, yes.
Okay, and does Greater Wellington have much of a say in this, or that, like, will they be a stakeholder, or are they, because they don't provide the actual water services, they won't be part of this? Just
They
asking
are
for
still
interest.
part of the Wellington water provision in terms of bulk water supply. They're part of Wellington Water, so they are still part of the mix, and the assets for that still currently sit with Greater Wellington Regional Council, so they would be part of it.
Okay, yeah, Ngāmihi.
Good questions. Councillor Halliday?
Yeah, just a couple of clarity things. This conversation is for drinking water only, as it's not three waters as such.
It's for all three waters.
It's for all three waters.
Yes.
Okay, good to know. Other question was, with regards to a water service delivery plan, and I appreciate that we're at, I agree with Nigel, we need to be at the table, we need to be part of the mix, we need to be part of the conversation. We absolutely like to, but just can clarify, we could do our own water service delivery plan ourselves, or we could choose to partner with Hora Whenua, or be a part of Wellington Water, but what we're doing is, should we say, we're doing a discovery process about what that all looks like. Would that be a fair comment?
Yes, so we could submit our own plan through to central government for approval, and we would need to be, I guess, aware of that time frame in terms of this process. If we are intending to deliver our own plan, that would be part of the consideration as we work through the initial stages of this project.
And would it be a fair comment, I'm speaking to, Janet, you put yourself forward for this, that there'd be regular reporting back, because I think an important aspect is knowing what the table's position is in this space as well, if we're being represented in that space. Would that be part of the process?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, whether that's at the chief executive's level, or group manager level, or at the
Cool.
governance group level.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
Thank you. Kim,
Kia ora.
Tahiri.
I agree around the skill sets, and obviously, but this is the way it's going. But we do need to, put our best foot forward. But my comment is around having a mana whenua representative in that working group as well, rather than coming back and then having to put input and fight your way back up. Having mana whenua input suitably skilled to sit in that working group alongside. It just makes the process a lot quicker and a lot easier. Otherwise, we're doing it back and forth.
Yep, I can answer that. If we think back to the previous reform program with the Wellington Regional Entity G, Holmet was the, was the main point of contact for mana whenua iwi. And then he would go out to the region-wide iwi working group. So my understanding that is the similar process that we will be looking to employ here.
So is it just one mana whenua group for all of the mana whenua that sit in that
So
group?
I think the answer is actually on page 119 of the report under Advisory Oversight Group Membership and Structure. And it says a representative from iwi Māori partners to be confirmed working with iwi Māori partners.
Yeah, I was suggesting representatives per region. So for Kapiti and all the
So I
different
think what the
regions.
report said is
Yeah.
that the committee will work with iwi to work out how that representation looks.
Thank you. Just wondering, how does it benefit the residents of Kapiti by joining this? Because, everything's about money, isn't it? And now we're talking more financial as well. So just wondering, what would the benefits for the residents of Kapiti actually be?
Well, I guess at two levels, and unless we're part of this process initially, then we won't know necessarily what those benefits might look like. By being involved in this, we can actually make sure that there are those benefits and disbenefits are considered as part of the process. But ultimately, you'd have to work through whatever model that this working group comes up with to determine whether or not there are benefits for Kapiti and the scale of those benefits. So, so really this is just allowing us to be part of that working group, making sure that if we're part of that, we can influence that potentially in terms of, even though it's only a small influence, we might be able to influence where that goes in terms of whatever model they look at. But ultimately, if there isn't anything of benefit to Kapiti, then we can withdraw from it.
Let's get out, yeah. Okay.
The as I mentioned, the costs haven't been provided costs to date, but there has. So we would need to look at that in terms of what that might be funded from. But there has been talk about people using some of the DIA funding that they still have to help provide support for this working group. But that will come through as they establish the group and look at a work program and then pin some costs to that as well.
Okay. Cool, thank you. You're looking forward to the next update. Thank you.
Councillor Warwick.
My question is around C and the recommendations that we delegate Darren to do a MOU consistent with discussions and amendments made by council. The council, is that the council staff or the councillors? What oversight will we have over the MOU that you are signing on the behalf of the organisation?
So there's a
who does it
draft
mean?
MOU attached in the attachment 1. So if you did have a view that you wanted something modified in there, then the reference is to the council. So today would be an opportunity, councillors, to suggest somewhere in that MOU that you think needs to be changed, modified. It's pretty broad and it's quite high level in terms of the MOU. It doesn't necessarily commit you to a whole lot of stuff. But again, it would be decision today if you're comfortable with that, or if you would like us to amend it. I don't believe so that any of the other councils that have put this up have made amendments to the MOU.
Might get complicated because it's got to go.
Yeah, because it's going through that process regionally, and we're the last council, I think, close to it to sign it off. But again, it is quite. If you have it's quite generic. It's broad, and it doesn't really commit to anything specific at this stage.
It's just baby steps, really. You know, just the first step in doing what we're kind of expected to do. But I'll actually ask for a mover and the seconder now, because I think so it's been moved by Councillor Wilson because he preemptively did his right of introduction. So it's now been seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Is there any further comment? So that's with D. You're happy with my name in there, Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, good luck. I wish you well.
Is that what you're moving? Just confirming that I
I'm
have the
just
skill
gonna-
set required.
I was just going to take my right of reply.
No, Councillor Halliday has something to say first.
Oh.
And Kim.
At that stage. Yeah.
Look, having been through this process over the last couple of years, as a couple of other people in the room can contest to, I think it's really, really important that we have someone at that table from our perspective that's been through that process. And Janet, you've obviously been through that process. Because there was a hell of a lot of information that came through us over the last 3 years. And I think it's going to be very, very important that we have someone who was over that at the table rather than a fresh eyes, so to speak. We're not at a fresh eyes stage with this yet, but having an understanding. So very supportive, Janet, of you being that person on there as such. My concern, I appreciate that we're going in there, and this table didn't really, in the last time, didn't really support what was being talked to with the Three Waters, simply because of where we're at compared to a lot of other people, and the issues around debt, the issues around cross-subsidy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I think that's important. My concern is that we get caught up in this, and next minute, we're a part of it. That's my concern, and that sort of stuff. That's why having the report backs is going to be important, and that sort of stuff. I think it's something we, as a council table, need to be on top of as it moves forward. This is significant, and it will severely impact on our delivery of our services in the Three Water as we move forward over the next 10, 20 years. I cannot emphasise from my perspective what I think is the importance of this and how we are tied to it or not, with regards to what our own journey is going to be as we move forward. and that sort of thing. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of statistical information. There's a lot of background information that will be available, I dare say, to councillors and that sort of stuff. And it will be a mission to work through it all. But I do suggest that we do what we can to get our head around what our current situation is, why we perhaps what our position is as a table with regards to where we move, how we might be looking at moving forward, just in preparation for the opportunities or the decisions we might need to make in the not too distant future, whether to be a part of this group or not, or to be even talking to Horowhenua or what are our other options in regards to this as well. That's what I'm very happy to support this as we move forward, and a continuation of a journey that's been going for a while.
Not to sound like a broken record, but I think the conversation does need to be had. But just the issue I had with page 11, I think it's 119, and that it has representatives from each of the partner councils, yet there's one iwi representative who is meant to represent, well, it looks like from the wording, which is why I raised it, meant to represent every mana whenua group in the whole region, as opposed to having direct contact. So I'm not sure how that will work, but it is a concern to think that we can have membership from each council, yet when it comes to mana whenua, there's one that's got to cover the whole lot. That's the concern about that section of it. That's how it reads to me.
So Darren and I will take that back.
Yeah,
because
please.
I think it's a legitimate concern. I
Yeah.
read it differently, but I can see
Says
on rereading it, it
representative.
does seem like a single person.
A single person to cover. So why are we having elected members from every other council, yet when it comes to mana whenua, it's one for the whole lot?
With
Yeah.
page number diagram, let's have a look at that. I've lost
So
it.
the picture on page 122, if you look at the detail on the OAG or AOG, it says representative from each iwi Māori partner. So what you're saying is the text and the picture don't align.
I think we just did an S on the end of representative on page 119. Yeah,
I just want to be clear on
Yes.
what that representative is, because it's really unclear at the moment.
That's very clear to me and very clear to Darren, and we'll ensure that that's enacted. Okay, so I had one more thing to say, which was that we'll put that reporting back onto the council work program so that we ensure that that happens. Because I agree with you, Councillor Halliday, that is of crucial importance as we move through this. And I have learned a little bit lately about being non-committal even at a regional level and silence being acquiescence on issues. So, you know, it is fraught with difficulty, and this is going to be of intense public interest as well as it moves forward. So I think keeping councillors informed is going to, and community board members informed, and the community by extension is going to be of paramount importance. So I take that on board. And I'll pass to Councillor Wilson for a right of reply.
Yeah, this is it's a bit of a back to the future thing. I back in the old days, I chaired the water division for Greater Wellington, and I was on a dams working group. And one of the biggest obstacles to getting things done was parochialism and councils not wanting to take part because of a whole bunch of reasons. As part of the Regional Development Forum earlier this year, I found myself sitting alongside Bernie Wandin, Mayor of Horowhenua, who was an active participant. So they weren't there as a token, they were active participants. I would really like to see every opportunity given to Horowhenua to be part of this. Now, as you said, they're meeting as a council. Maybe they go, we don't want to borrow this, but it might be that they do. I would be averse to other councils sort of shutting the gate there, particularly us. They're our nearest neighbour, and we are growing together more and more. One of my primary reasons for going along with this is that the entity G, this is kind of like giving some legs to that, and 2026 isn't that far away. And were there to be a change of government, it'd be really important that local government and regional government isn't just at start again stage, that we are moving through. This is basically that, but without any money. All right, we're sort of having a look at how we can best, and there's a legislative process. I think they're up to the third reading or something at the moment. There's a legislative process, but there's no money coming with it. And to Kim's point, there was a committee called Te Puketaia. Te Puketaia was a natural resources committee that comprised six iwi representatives and 6 elected representatives, and it worked incredibly well. It was the most successful committee, actually. And so as a model, if they were looking to have a model, it wasn't cumbersome. Quite often there's an aversion to having too many people in the room. It takes too long to make it, That it didn't work like that. It was co-chaired. It was just superb, and I would fully support that. So if you get the opportunity, you might not support that, but I do, and I think that's something worth having a think about, because it's something that did exist and it existed really well. But yeah,
Thank you.
So
So I'll now put those to the vote. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Thanks, Sean. The other mayors will be most relieved because we're the last. Report 10.6, reports and recommendations from standing committees. Jessica, this is quite a simple one, and then we've just got confirmation of minutes, so we'll just box on.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to take the report as read, noting that there have been no recommendations to Council by standing committees since the last report to you 30 November 2023. Thank you.
Right, so we just have one recommendation that the Council receives the report. Are you moving, Councillor Halliday?
Yeah, look, I just wanted to flag something just with regards to race levy grants. The next round of those, just now my involvement in the Waste Minimisation Regional Committee, if I could just be included in the emails around that, or just let know when the process is in
we'll
place
take
would be
that
much
offline.
appreciated.
Thank you. And while you've got the microphone, are you happy to move? Yeah,
Happy to move.
recommendation A on 1, 2, 3. Seconded by Councillor Spires. All in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried. Now, can I have a mover that we move into public excluded? Moved by Councillor Coe, seconded by Councillor Warwick. All in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried. I'm turning off the live stream. Oh, I'll do that after we come back. I got confused between my minutes.